This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. All right, so people are frustrated with the play of Amari Cooper so far at the beginning of the season. I really don't know what to make of this with Amari Cooper because he has been so good so recently, and he hasn't had a major injury. He's had some surgeries, some minor surgeries in the offseason. He's had some minor injuries here or there, but he hasn't had a major like ACL surgery or something like that. So I find it hard to believe that he's physically fallen off. He does look frustrated, right? Like, I think he's frustrated with whatever is going on with the offense. I think they would benefit from just simplifying things on the offensive side of the ball between him and Deshaun Watson. I think it was working how those two were working together in the last offense, and I think they kind of moved away from it to be a little bit more complex, to give them extra answers. And I think it's just led to friction being created between Deshaun and Amari Cooper, at least on the field, when it comes to the chemistry that they had. So I think it could stand to be simplified, but I don't know where to land on what that means for Amari Cooper. Like, is he still somebody who could play at a number one wide receiver level? I would like to think so. And it's not like Amari Cooper has played worse than we've ever seen him. Like, he's had games like this before where he's had a super bad drop grade and a super high drop percentage. Like, he's done this before in other seasons. Almost every season he's been with the Cleveland Browns. He did it in 2022. He did it in 2023, and now he's doing it in 2024. And it might just be the case that these games are happening for him at the beginning of the season instead of in the middle of the season. I don't know what to make of it again, but a lot of people are wondering if Amari Cooper should be shipped out of here and if it would make sense for Amari Cooper to ship out of here. First thing we got to talk about, if you want to talk about trading Amari Cooper, is the money. Now, on one end of the equation, Amari Cooper's money makes a ton of sense to make a trade for, right? If you're a team that wants Amari Cooper, not named the Cleveland Browns, it makes a lot of sense because Amari Cooper's contract has been paid out by the Cleveland Browns when they restructured his whole deal and added all those incentives to it. That got paid out. So what the team would pay is the vet minimum for Amari Cooper for the rest of the year. And that changes. It's prorated based on when you trade for Amari Cooper. It could be anywhere from $900,000 for the rest of the year to $600,000. It would be very affordable for a team to trade for Amari Cooper. The question when it comes to trading Amari Cooper and the finances of it doesn't really lay on the team that's taking Amari Cooper in. It lays on the responsibility of the Cleveland Browns. Because if you trade Amari Cooper, you have to eat all the money from the contract that you had him sign. You have to eat all the incentives, the guarantees, and that goes into a cap hit into 2025, which would be around $25 million. If you just let Amari Cooper walk in free agency this year, you save $15 million on the cap as opposed to trading him. So if you want to trade Amari Cooper, it has to be worth not saving $15 million on the cap. That's the calculus that the Browns have. It's why they can't just trade him for a fifth and get it over with. That fifth round pick is not going to be worth $15 million saved against it. You would be furious if the Browns sacrifice $15 million in cap space next year to get a fifth round pick. Like, what fifth round pick are you paying $15 million to? What sixth round, fourth round, third round pick are you paying $15 million to, right? It would really only make sense for either a first or a second round pick. I know some people have floated a fourth round pick, and I'm going to be honest, I don't think you're even getting a fourth round pick for Amari Cooper, or a third round pick, or a second round pick, or a first round pick for Amari Cooper, because he's a rental for like half the season, a little bit. He's a rental for, if you trade for him today, 3/4 of the season. If you wait to the trade deadline, you're talking about half the season that you're getting out of Amari Cooper. And nobody's trading a bunch of assets for that. You trade a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a third-round pick for a player who has a good, favorable contract with years of control on it. When the Browns traded for Amari Cooper from Dallas, they got 3 years of control and only had to give up a fifth-round pick. What would make somebody give up a third or fourth-round pick that's not conditional for a player they're going to get 10 games of control on, right? And then you're talking about a player who's going to be north of 30, who's going to expect an extension in the middle of a wide receiver contract move. I don't see a lot of teams being interested in that. I know people point to Kansas City as being a potential suitor. I don't think Kansas City feels the need to go after a wide receiver in the same way that we feel like Kansas City should be in a need to get a wide receiver, because we're thinking, oh, they lost Rashee Rice. They need a new wide receiver. They want to win a championship this year, so they're going to be desperate for a wide receiver. But the Kansas City Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls back-to-back. They also have won those 2 Super Bowls back-to-back with not a lot of help from the wide receiver position. Why would a team that has won 2 Super Bowls back-to-back, particularly without great wide receiver help, be super desperate to get a wide receiver, especially one over 30, without any control, that will only be on the team for 10? The Kansas City Chiefs finesse guys who get cut by other teams. They don't make trades for dudes like Amari Cooper. Like, they're not going to – that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't seem like a move that Kansas City would want to make. The other team that would be interested is Pittsburgh, and you factor in the fact that the Browns are going to need something that's going to make this worth $15 million for them. Also, you got to factor in that you got to play them 2 times, right? Like, you still haven't played the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you trade Amari Cooper there, you're going to directly be inconvenienced by that trade, so you're going to want more from that. There's no way in the world Pittsburgh's willing to pay the price that would justify that to the. I think Pittsburgh would probably be more interested in a Devontae Adams. If they can't get a Devontae Adams, they'll just live with what they have. And I think Kansas City is not interested in bringing on a wide receiver like Amari Cooper. They're probably interested in something much younger, much cheaper, with multiple years under control, right? They're probably going to look in the direction of somebody who's been underperforming at wide receiver for a year or two, that has years of control, that has a lot of potential, that they feel like Pat Mahomes can squeeze more out of. Not a 33, not an older rental player that would be expensive to trade for because the Browns want to recoup $15 million in cap space in this trade. It wouldn't make sense to me. It doesn't sound very Kansas City to me. I mean, it's not impossible that it could happen, but I'd be surprised. The Pittsburgh thing, I'd be shocked if the Browns did anything with Pittsburgh, including Amari Cooper, unless this thing got so ugly that Amari Cooper made it so the Browns had to trade him to somebody. I don't think a draft asset is going to make much sense for the Cleveland Browns. The only way I see Amari Cooper being moved if it's in a player swap, and depending on what the player swap would be, I may or may not be in favor of it. I think the Browns need help on the defensive line more than anything. I think they need interior defensive linemen, especially a difference maker in the run game, like a DJ Reader or something like that. I know I pushed this agenda in my Devontae Adams video, but I will continue to push this agenda. Every time I watch the Browns defense, I just think to myself, damn, they need a difference maker in the interior. They don't have a difference maker in the interior. And I think if they had a difference maker in the interior, we would see a lot of these run defense issues not really be a thing for this team. But we don't have that. But if somebody wants to offer that for Amari Cooper and swap it, I think that would make a lot of sense, especially if that player came with maybe a year or 2 under control. It would justify eating that cost for Amari Cooper, depending on the caliber of player that you get back. To get a player in return or get a draft pick in return that's going to make sense for the Browns to eat that $15 million cap hit, I just don't think it's there. Like, I think they would have to find a way to get a second round pick out of Amari Cooper. And then that would include swapping a third and then doing a pick swap. I just don't think it's going to be there. I don't think any team's going to be willing to get this creative to get Amari Cooper on their roster for 10 games. Like, I just don't think it lines up. I don't think the intentions, the motives line up for any team out there. And I don't think anybody's going to be able to make the Browns an offer that's attractive enough for it to make a ton of sense for Cleveland to do. Yes, I think the Browns are going to have their eyes and ears open for a Amari Cooper trade. If somebody wants to offer them a Godfather deal for Amari Cooper, the Browns aren't inclined to say no. Like, they are inclined to say yes to a trade that makes sense. Just the probability of one of those trades coming across the desk of Andrew Berry, I think is insanely low, or a lot lower than some people would want it to be. I understand Amari Cooper's play so far has been frustrating, and now we're getting to the point where people are questioning Amari Cooper's professionalism, right? I think it's a rough patch that Amari Cooper's going through. I'm not sure what's going on with Amari Cooper, right? Like, he's still getting open at a high level. He's still able to run routes at a high level. He's just having some weird mess ups and some weird moments that I can't really explain, right? I know somebody's going to try to say that it's some kind of conspiracy and Amari's trying to play himself off the Browns. I don't think that's the case. Amari Cooper is not about to sabotage his NFL career because he's mad at the Cleveland Browns. That doesn't seem like who he's put himself out there to be. I think he's just going through a rough patch. He's frustrated with the changes on the offense. He's frustrated with his ability to execute those changes on the offense. And he's frustrated with the adjustments being made with the offense. And I think that these things will come together and fix themselves with more time. And we'll see the better Amari Cooper show up like we did last week or against the New York Giants. So I wouldn't give up all hope in Amari Cooper. I understand people are frustrated with him, but also trading him I don't think is a solution, because you're just not going to find a trade out. Trading him I just don't think is a solution, because I find it difficult to believe that you're going to get a trade that will recoup the value that would justify trading Amari Cooper, even knowing that he walks away after this season. Because again, if he walks away, you save $15 million in cap space next year. If you trade him, you don't get that $15 million in cap space. So you're sacrificing $15 million in cap space to trade Amari Cooper. So what you get back in return for Amari Cooper has to justify losing that. Unless you make a trade where like you try to figure that out, but that would be very unlikely. So that's my thoughts there. I'm leaning towards just keeping Amari Cooper for the rest of the season unless something very interesting pops up. But I think the bar for what the Browns are going to qualify as interesting is a little higher than a lot of people think, right? Like, I think this is higher than a conditional fourth. I think it's higher than a conditional fifth. I don't think they consider it unless a third and something is on the table for Amari Cooper. And I don't think anybody's going to throw that on the table for Amari Cooper. Maybe if a team gets creative with pick swaps and everything like that, something could happen. Maybe if a team gets creative with the player swap, something could happen. But I think it's going to take something creative to make this happen and not something that's pretty rote. So that's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.